picture, curtain lights. This is it, the night of nights. No more rehearsing and nursing a part. We know every part by heart. Overture, curtain lights. This is it, we'll hit the heights. And oh, what heights we'll hit. On with the show, this is it.
Hey, we're back. I'm Goose.
I'm Logan.
This is On With the Show, and apparently...
there has been a recent
what is that?
Trend of directors, actors, producers, all trashing their previous work in the, I guess, new...
woke universe?
Woke universe,
That's kind of one thing I can call it. I mean, it's like, I don't know what it is they're trying to accomplish now. I mean, because...
Exactly. It's like you're trashing work that's already been in, like, the public knowledge for decades, and you're trying to go back on it saying this was bad for reasons nobody except you and I bet
the small
many
minority of people
care
that really
about.
give a crap about. Where do you want to start? I mean...
Well, let's see. We could start with Steven Spielberg, Marta Kaufman.
No, I want to start with James Cameron.
James Cameron.
James
oh,
Cameron.
Yeah, because apparently he had, with the recent release of Avatar 2 Way of Water, there was a story that came out that said he cut about 10 minutes of footage from it because it glorified gun violence.
Yeah, apparently he...
It's like, has this dude seen many of his movies? Have you seen the Terminator franchise?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, yeah, he was like, oh, it's just, I can't, you know, I feel so bad about all the movies that I made that glorified gun violence, and I'm like thinking, dude, you did Terminator 1, Terminator 2, True Lies, great film, if you haven't seen True Lies. All of them he did with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I'm sitting there thinking, dude, shut up.
Exactly.
You made these movies. They made you millions of dollars. You were able to take that money and do Titanic and Avatar and all this other stuff.
It's like, so are you going to go on the train and then disown those movies because they glorified gun violence? Oh. I mean, this is on top of his previous comments. You hear about when he said the testosterone is a toxin that should be eliminated from the male body. I was like,
sad.
Yeah.
Sad. I mean, you know, and again, I sit there and I'm like, who are you trying to impress? Truthfully, who are you trying to impress? I mean, because, you know, Terminator 2 considered probably the best, if not one of the best sequels of all time, considered one of the best action films of all time. It actually drove people to watch the first Terminator. You know, and then that's where it should have just ended, because every Terminator after that was basically a sad.
I haven't seen many of the Terminator franchise. Sadly, I've yet to see Terminator 2. It's one that's been on my watch list for a long time.
Yeah.
I have seen the first, and I've seen the other one. I think was it that Terminator Genesis?
Yeah. Oh God, that's horrible.
Which was abysmal. Aside from that, I think it was that one moment with Arnold Schwarzenegger, that big smile he did.
Yeah.
Aside from that movie was
about the funniest
terrible.
part of the film, and then everything else was like a sad sack of shit.
Exactly.
I mean, just horrible. And I know why Arnie did it, because they paid him a shitload of money.
A lot of money.
you know. But and then we get the dude, the director of Love Actually. So, if you didn't know, this past Christmas, Love Actually celebrated its 20-year anniversary. Its 20-year anniversary, and they asked the director about you know its impact, and what was his. Read what the impact was. You have that?
Yeah, let me pull that up.
I mean,
it was something about, he said he's going to do a reboot of some sort because of Love Actually's lack of diversity. Let me find it really quick. Smooth radio.
But it's just
from The Guardian. It says, lack of diversity in Love Actually makes me feel a bit stupid.
Well,
it says, in a TV special marketing the festive rom-com's 20th anniversary, the director says, some moments feel out of date.
It was done 20 years ago. It was done 20 years ago. I mean, you know, yeah, they kind of feel a little out of date. I mean, watching, you know, Hugh Grant do that silly dance. Kind of out of date. I mean, but again, who are you trying to impress?
This isn't just about racial diversity, but also, I don't know, sexual diversity,
Dude.
I guess, where it says all the romantic interests in the film are heterosexual.
No, they weren't. Have you seen your old film? Do you remember that Bill Nye? Not the Bill Nye. What am I thinking of? The other guy.
Let me find it for you.
He played a rock star in the film. Basically said if he got enough, I don't know, likes or whatever, that that he would perform New Year's Eve naked. All right.
Hugh Grant.
He was a gay man in the film. Do you remember that? You were the director. You couldn't have been. You can't be that senile. I mean, what is up with these people trashing their films years later? Mel Brooks doesn't even trash his own films.
And good on him, because
a
lot of Mel Brooks' works are when said such and such could not be made in 2022. What
were some of the movies we said that there was no way they could be remade today?
Blazing Saddles.
Well, no, Blazing Saddles
is the number one.
Yeah, they say Blazing Saddles can't be remade. I beg to differ. I think Blazing Saddles could be remade today, and it can be remade well. I've even thought, and we can talk about this on our next subject, because on our next, the coming up is they say Song of the South can't be remade. You want to make a bet? I'll make you a bet it can be remade. That they could probably get Morgan Freeman to play Uncle Remus, and it'll probably be a great.
That would be interesting.
And it would be a great film. They've even talked about how that they would do Song of the South without the live actors. They would just do it animated.
Well, I mean, to be fair, having seen Song of the South, I believe the only parts that are really notable are the animated segments, mostly because that's the only parts everybody knows about because of Splash Mountain.
Yeah. Which will be our next segment, by the way, because there's a huge movement going on for Splash Mountain. Mm-hmm. Anyway, but Revenge of the Nerds. I don't think that can be done today.
This ties into an actor who has trashed her own work, that being the huge 80s star Molly Ringwald, star of such classics as The Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink,
16 Candles.
And 16 Candles.
Yeah.
The latter of which being the one that has been, I guess, under fire for its outdated sense of humor, particularly the character Long Duck Dong, and the scene, I think it's with the Nerd and Jake talk about, what was it, date raping or something?
Yeah.
Jake Ryan's girlfriend. What was it? I think it's because she's drunk. And he says something like, "Oh, I could violate her 100 different ways." Something to that extent. I'm paraphrasing. And then I think later on it's kind of implied that they did do something like that, and everybody's saying, "Oh, this movie should be canceled," or anything about that. But you got to consider this movie is coming up on 40 years old.
40 years old.
And it's not singular to just 16 Candles, as you mentioned. Revenge of the Nerds is probably one of the biggest examples of a movie not aging well.
It's a huge sex comedy in the 80s, and it's hysterically funny. Mm-hmm. But if you were to get a bunch of college people in the watching them, oh my gosh, I can't believe that
because they spy on, like, in the girls' dorm room by putting hidden cameras, and then the most infamous moment of the movie comes when one of the nerds dresses up as one of the chick's boyfriends, and he has sex with her. So, which is, what is it called? Rape by deception? Yeah. Something like that. But
yeah, I mean, it's just, I think Revenge of the Nerds is hysterically funny. I mean, you look at movies like Porky's, you look at movies like American Pie. They're all sex comedies. Mm-hmm. They're comedy. American Pie. Is one. I would think that it could be redone today. I think it's great as it is, mm-hmm. But whenever you have a movie that kind of just edges closer and closer to the edge, which is what comedy is about, mm-hmm. You're going to get people that are offended because, oh my gosh, and again, it's usually a real small amount of people that are really getting offended that all of a sudden, for some reason, these directors and producers, I mean, Marta Kaufman's another one, who trashed her own show, Friends, which is
after
considered
one of the most beloved, iconic,
yeah.
and profitable TV shows of all time. She's gone on record saying it's so, I don't know, non-PC because, oh, God forbid you center a show around 6 friends who all happen to be white.
Yeah.
The horror.
Yeah. I mean, I would usually use the joke all the time back when it was on air, and I would say, you know, do any of these people have any friends of color? Do they have any black
Probably
friends?
not. No, you know why? Because this is all performative. They want to see like, we stand for the oppressed, the minorities. It's all performative. They don't really give a shit. She's still going to be collecting all the checks.
Yeah.
All the royalties from whatever streaming service it's on, being watched by millions of people. It's because she really doesn't care.
No, she doesn't really care. I mean, just, again, who are you trying to impress?
Exactly.
You're trashing a show. It's considered
pretty much, I say, one of, if not the only thing you're notable for.
Yeah. It's considered, I think, well, I also think she did a few other shows, too. You know, Mad About You, I think she did Seinfeld, or she was a producer or something. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. But you're trashing a show that's considered the greatest comedy, if not one of the greatest comedies of all time. It's ranked usually in every list I've seen, television list I've seen as far as comedies or even greatest shows. It's ranked in the top 5. You know, because it made such an impact on people's lives. It was hysterically funny. And one of the reasons why it was hysterically funny is because you had 6 people who were of different, maybe they weren't of different race, but they were certainly of different characters. You know, and when she came out and said I'm ashamed because it wasn't diverse enough. You're trashing a show that you did back in, when was it? The 90s?
Yeah, it started in 1994 and ran through 2000.
2000. Which made you millions of dollars. It made you millions of dollars. You don't have to work another day in your life.
Because of this one show you made. And now, long after the show's been on the air, long after you've made more money than any regular person would wish to see in their lives, you're going to say, this show sucks because it wasn't diverse enough.
You know that a lot of different people got their start on Friends. Paul Rudd is probably one of the more famous. Got his start on Friends.
Didn't he play...
He played Mike. He played the guy that married Phoebe.
That's right. I was trying to remember. I think I couldn't remember what character he had played.
Anna Faris got her start on Friends. There were a lot of people who went through that show. Tom Selleck, Brad Pitt. I mean, just a number of people. I don't hear any of them complaining.
No,
I don't hear any of the cast complaining. So the latest, and then I heard this yesterday. And the latest person apparently to be upset with something a film that he made is
Steven Spielberg.
Steven Spielberg for what movie?
What film, you might ask? Jaws.
Jaws.
Because it stigmatized sharks. Because of my movie, people unfairly looked down upon sharks as these violent creatures when they're really not. Whatever the hell he said, it was something stupid like that.
Can I just say, Mr. Spielberg, the sharks don't care?
Yeah. No shark is going to be like, Steven Spielberg standing up for us. Thank you, Mr. Spielberg.
He hurt my feelings. They're not protesting at your house.
No.
They don't care. They're sharks.
And again, this goes back to who are you trying to impress?
Oh, yeah.
Because as far as I know, there's nobody out... Has there ever been any other person who has gone saying Jaws gave sharks a bad name? Not that I can think of.
I don't see anybody.
And it's like you can't say this is something to get back in the headlines because he just released another movie this past year, The Fabelmans, which I heard was really good. So it's like, what are you trying to do? It's not for notoriety. It's not to really impress anybody because, frankly, nobody cares. But
you don't see anybody. You don't see anybody holding picket signs at the aquarium going, "Stand up for sharks! Stand up for sharks! They're creatures too." It's like none of that's happening. And what makes it even crazier? This is the crazier. What was the first film that Steven Spielberg did?
I think it was Jaws was one of the first.
Yeah, one of the first ones.
Yeah, that was his breakout.
It was his breakout film. Mm-hmm. It became known. It was so big, it brought in the term summer blockbuster. Mm-hmm. What year was it done in?
1975.
1975. So we're talking about a movie that's
47 years old.
Yeah. And just now...
now you're having a problem with it?
He feels bad for the sharks? What?
The sheer absurdity of it.
It is... I'm sorry. It's really hard to make me speechless. But this kind of does, because it makes absolutely
no sense
whatsoever. Again, as we're saying, who are you trying to impress? Mm-hmm. Like you're saying, you just put out a film that apparently is, I guess from what I hear, is going to be considered Oscar, is going to be considered for the Oscars. Mm-hmm. Which again, Steven Spielberg, that's the kind of guy he is.
Yeah.
Overture, curtain lights, this is it, the night of nights. No more rehearsing and nursing a part. We know every part by heart. Overture, curtain lights, this is it. We'll hit the heights, and oh, what heights we'll hit. On with the show, this is it.